A pregnant woman asks a flight attendant to help her to the bathroom. Just then, a famous male celebrity waves to get the flight attendant's attention. The flight attendant is excited to be called by a celebrity. She leaves the pregnant woman behind, eager to get close to the star. In the cockpit, the co-pilot makes his first flying mistake. The plane shakes violently in midair. The cabin becomes chaotic with the strong turbulence. The pregnant woman in the bathroom loses balance and hits her stomach. The sharp pain makes her faint. The unaware captain thinks his proud student has solved the crisis. He pats the co-pilot's shoulder, praising his great flying skills. When the plane stabilizes, the flight attendant remembers the pregnant woman in the bathroom. She realizes something's wrong when the woman doesn't come out. As she opens the bathroom door, the pregnant woman falls to the floor. The flight attendant asks, "Are you okay, ma'am?" Guiltily, she helps the pregnant woman back to her seat. The pregnant woman took this risky flight to attend her daughter's graduation in Guangdong. The flight attendant sees blood on the woman's dress but stays silent, afraid of getting in trouble. She tries to calm herself, repeating, "It's okay, it's okay." When she returns to check on the pregnant woman, she finds blood covering the entire seat. Now unable to hide it, she calls loudly for the chief flight attendant's help. The calm chief takes the pregnant woman for emergency care. The situation is beyond the flight attendant's skills. They ask over the speaker for medical help, but there are no doctors among the passengers. At this critical moment, the nervous flight attendant drops scissors and medical supplies, contaminating them before use. Because of her repeated mistakes, the woman gives birth successfully, but the baby gets sepsis. The flight attendant thinks it's over, but the mother keeps bleeding. She informs the captain, "The mother gave birth but won't stop bleeding." They're still 2 hours from their destination. The co-pilot wants to land at a nearby airport. He's willing to fly through turbulence to save the mother's life. But the captain disagrees. He says, "We can't risk 300 passengers' lives." He insists on following professional ethics. The apprentice is extremely anxious. The pregnant woman is between life and death, but they can help her. The apprentice asks, "Would you still do this if she were your family?" The captain says, "She is my wife. I can't risk 300 passengers' lives just for my wife." The captain insists, and his wife tragically dies. Their daughter studies hard for 20 years to fulfill her dream of flying. She expects her mother to attend her graduation. But at the end, she receives news of her mother's death. She regrets asking her mother to come to her graduation. She hates her father for choosing principles over her mother's life. Everyone is heartbroken at the funeral. The flight attendant from that accident comes to the funeral. Not only is she not punished, but she soon gets promoted to cabin manager. Dajin wishes she could tear her apart right there, but her father stops her. Yoon-sung, the co-pilot, can't face attending his teacher's wife's funeral. He can't live with the guilt of causing her death on his first flight. At night, he drowns his sorrows in alcohol. He kneels before his teacher, begging for forgiveness. He blames his teacher for being too stubborn. "If you'd listened to me and landed at the nearest airport that day, your wife might still be alive." Furious, he cuts ties with his teacher forever. Little do they know, this is their last meeting. From then on, Dajin deeply resents her father. She asks, "Mom was a passenger too. Dad, where did Mom rank among all the passengers to you?" The captain, having lost his wife, suffers the most. As the family's only support, he stays strong for his children. Then, shockingly, a truck hits and kills him. Dajin hasn't recovered from losing her mother when the only adult in her family is gone too. Only she and her baby sister remain. She cries all her tears seeing her father off. That same day, Yoon-sung flees to escape his guilt, living with shame in a new city. Dajin works hard for her flying dream to fulfill the promise she made to her parents. She vows, "I'll become a pilot just like you, Dad." 7 years pass. Dajin becomes an excellent pilot and meets her first flight partner, Captain Yoon-sung, who cut ties with her father years ago. Dajin and Captain Yoon-sung don't know each other. Dajin is nervous flying with this famous captain. The proud Yoon-sung doesn't take her seriously. Dajin nervously tries to make small talk to ease the awkwardness. "There's a passenger with a serious heart condition on board. They need surgery immediately after landing." In the chaos, Dajin accidentally cuts off the plane's power. The cabin goes dark, causing panic among the passengers. Yoon-sung reminds her to turn on the backup power, and she finally does. The plane's systems return to normal. Furious, Yoon-sung tries to kick Dajin off the plane, but the cabin doors have already closed. They can't delay the flight. The patient needs surgery. So the plane takes off, leaving Dajin terrified. The plane reaches its destination safely, but while the plane is fine, the airport has a problem. A broken-down plane is stuck on the runway. Air traffic control tells them to adjust their altitude. They must delay landing and wait for instructions. But the heart patient can't wait. They need surgery now. Dajin requests an emergency landing again. After checking, the control tower confirms the broken plane will be moved in 5 minutes. Dajin adjusts their landing path accordingly. Just when everything seems ready, the tow truck for the broken plane malfunctions. They need more time. Then the plane loses contact with the control tower. An employee spilled coffee on the communication system. If they land as planned, they'll crash into the broken plane. A controller grabs a signal light and runs to the roof. The plane descends closer to the ground. Right before landing, they see a red signal light from the tower. The plane pulls up and circles the airport. Dajin's first flight is full of problems. With no contact from the ground, the plane keeps circling until fuel runs low. Time is running out for the patient. At the last moment, they get a green light to land. The plane finally touches down safely. Dajin and the controller angrily blame each other. They argue about the poor communication during the flight. Yoon-sung coldly stops them. Later, he tells the airline CEO to fire Dajin. He says, "An amateur pilot like her will cause a disaster." But Dajin refuses to give up her dream of flying. She apologizes repeatedly, begging to keep her job. Yoon-sung isn't done punishing her. He humiliates her in front of everyone. He says, "You're the worst pilot I've ever seen. The worst of the worst." Dajin admits her mistake. "Because of what happened to my mother 7 years ago, I want to save every passenger I can." But the captain doesn't accept her explanation. He angrily rips off her 3 stripes and throws them on the ground. Still furious, he even kicks her. Yoon-sung doesn't know this girl is the daughter of the couple he accidentally killed 7 years ago. A man secretly follows a child, waiting for a chance to act. The older sister leaves the child outside while she goes to the restroom. Seeing his chance, the man pretends to walk by and offers to play with her, even giving her candy. The child senses danger and says, "Don't talk to me." Just as the man tries to get closer, the older sister spots him from afar and rushes back to stop him. Turns out, the strange man is just a rich kid who thought the child was cute and wanted to chat. He mistakes Dajin for the child's mother. Yoon-sung already dislikes Dajin, and seeing her bring a child to work makes it worse. A co-worker tells Yoon-sung that Dajin lost both parents young and now raises her sick sister alone. Everyone pities her and helps her out. That day, Yoon-sung visits his mentor's workplace and learns his mentor died in a crash 7 years ago, the day he left. He kneels at his mentor's grave, full of regret. 7 years later, what good is an apology to the dead? Despite her pain, Dajin faces life with a smile, no matter how hard it gets. She treasures her job and bravely asks Yoon-sung to teach her, no matter how sincere she is. Yoon-sung refuses to even look at her, but Dajin doesn't give up. She says, "I'll prove I can be a great captain." That night, she takes her sister home only to find their belongings thrown outside. Their father's house has been seized. Her aunt took out loans she couldn't repay, and now Dajin is stuck with the debt. With nowhere to go, they spend the freezing night outside. Dajin wraps her little sister tightly with a scarf. Dajin keeps apologizing to her sister. She says, "I'm sorry," over and over. But her sister suddenly covers Dajin's mouth. To the little sister, Dajin is the person who loves her most in the world. She doesn't want to see her sister sad. The calm little sister starts coughing nonstop. When she was born, she got an infection and developed sepsis. Even a small cold could take her life. With no choice, Dajin goes to her father's old friend for help. For 7 years since their father died, this man has been inviting Dajin to live with him and take care of them. But Dajin didn't want to trouble anyone with her and her sister. Now, fearing she might lose her sister to illness, Dajin swallows her pride and accepts help. The next day, Dajin has her pilot exam. Failing twice means she'll be kicked out of the program. All her hard work would be wasted. But during this crucial test, Dajin gets paired with a negative-minded captain. They fail the first attempt. The next day, Yoon-sung kindly suggests she change partners. But Dajin refuses. "Switching partners won't solve problems," she says. "Two pilots must work together as one. Because this isn't just about passing a test. We're responsible for 300 passengers' lives." Yoon-sung is surprised by the strength in her words. Her positivity even inspires the captain. They pass the exam together. The next day, mid-flight at 30,000 feet, a boy sneaks away while his pilot father sleeps. He uses all his strength to open the cabin door. A passenger stops him just in time. The noise wakes his father. Passengers angrily realize he's the captain. This makes everyone angrier. The father spanks his son hard. A metal box falls open, scattering its contents. The father freezes when he sees them. Letters to the boy's mother. His wife died a year ago. Missing her, the boy believes the sky is closest to heaven. He wanted to deliver the letters there. The cabin falls silent. Only the boy's quiet sobs remain. After getting off the plane, Dajin wants to make the child's wish come true. She tries to borrow a plane from the airline, but without proper paperwork, it's impossible to get a plane. She has no choice but to ask Yoo-sung for help. Because Yoo-sung knows many people, if he helps, there must be a way. But Dajin is coldly rejected. Yoo-sung seems proud and heartless, but secretly, he helps arrange things. The next morning, Dajin gets a surprise call from the airline. They agree to lend a plane for 1 hour. Happy, Dajin takes the child on the plane. They send their love for the mother into the sky. The child says, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll be a pilot like Dad. Then I can fly to the sky to see you. Mom, I love you." The next morning, they go jogging. Dajin almost has an accident. Yoon-sung grabs her, and they fall to the ground. Poor Dajin sees her glasses get crushed. Heartbroken, she keeps wiping them. Yoon-sung doesn't understand. He thinks she can just buy new glasses. He doesn't know what they mean to her. Dajin angrily takes them back. "They're the last thing my mother gave me." Without realizing, Yoon-sung starts caring for Dajin. He searches all stores for the same glasses, but he can't find them. Seeing Dajin wear the broken glasses, Yoon-sung feels sad. Life plays cruel tricks. Dajin meets the flight attendant who caused her mother's death. Not only was she not fired, but she got promoted to cabin manager. While Dajin lives in pain, this woman acts like nothing happened. Angry, Dajin confronts her. Captain Yoon-sung stops her just in time. Not knowing the truth, he grabs Dajin's clothes angrily. He says, "Are you crazy? Take off this uniform now. If you don't, I'll do it for you." The flight attendant is Yoon-sung's ex-girlfriend, Jaewon. 7 years ago, their mistake caused Dajin's mother's death. Unable to face this, they broke up and went abroad to study. Now, after 7 years, they meet again by chance. This is Dajin's first flight working with Jaewon. The memories keep bringing her pain. Even though 300 lives depend on her, her emotions distract her many times. She makes a mistake adjusting the flight altitude. The plane almost crashes with another at the same height. Luckily, Yoo-sung reacts quickly. With his excellent pilot skills, he saves the plane from disaster. After this incident, Yoo-sung decides to make Dajin leave. On the next flight, Dajin changes her schedule to avoid Jaewon, but fate puts them on the same plane again. Jaewon ignores Dajin and greets Yoo-sung instead. Dajin refuses to fly with her mother's killer. She demands a different chief flight attendant. This unreasonable request annoys the captain more. Jaewon stirs trouble by saying, "Is there a problem with my flight crew?" Angry, Dajin glares at Jaewon and replies, "You know the reason better than anyone." Her words make the other flight attendants suspicious. They think Dajin is targeting them. Feeling insulted, all flight attendants refuse to work. Dajin just wanted to avoid Jaewon, but now all flight attendants reject her. They protest and demand Dajin be fired. If they all refuse to fly, the flight will be delayed or cancelled. Yoo-sung uses this chance to blame Dajin more. He wants her gone, for the company's sake, even though she's not wrong. Dajin apologizes and accepts the blame. At home, she tries to calm down. She doesn't want her sister to worry. She wants her sister to live happily every day. The house is strangely quiet. She thinks her sister is hiding, but her sister hid her illness to not disturb Dajin's work. She was born with sepsis. Even a small sickness could kill her. Dajin is terrified of losing her sister. In this emergency, she meets Yoo-sung passing by. He helps rush her sister to the hospital. Luckily, her sister is saved in time and out of danger. She hugs her sister and cries loudly. As her only family left, her sister is the reason she keeps going. On her sister's birthday, Dajin visits their parents' grave. Her sister happily sings happy birthday to her. The poor girl doesn't know it's also their mother's death anniversary. Yoo-sung also comes to pay respects to his late master and mistress. He doesn't expect to meet Dajin here. She kneels at the grave crying, "Mom and Dad." Yoo-sung is shocked. The Dajin he's been harsh with is actually his late master's daughter. As Dajin finishes praying and prepares to leave, she runs into Jaewon, who also comes to visit. Jaewon recognizes the sister she once hurt. Dajin angrily tells Jaewon to leave. "Don't disturb the dead." Just go away, she says. Even if you die, you don't belong here. Both Jaewon and Yoon-sung stand before the grave, carrying the same guilt from the past. Jaewon tells Yoon-sung she acts like she doesn't care because if Dajin hates her more, it might hurt less. They search for a way to be forgiven, but know their mistakes can't be undone. They just try to be more careful now. That night, Dajin drinks alone. Yoon-sung happens to see her. He doesn't know how to face this strong girl. Drunk, she cries that her sister never got to grow up. My sweet little sister, Dajin says, because of that person, is going to die. I'll never forgive her. Her words make Yoon-sung even more ashamed to face her. Dajin only knows Jaewon neglected her mother and used dirty tools, giving her sister sepsis. She doesn't know her mom went into early labor because of Yoon-sung's piloting mistake. Yoon-sung carries the drunk Dajin home. Sing for me, Captain, she mumbles. Though usually quiet, Yoon-sung softly sings a lullaby. It feels like her father singing to her. Dajin closes her eyes and listens peacefully. Next day, Dajin sees the aunt who once left her homeless, now singing for money on the streets. Suddenly, some thugs kidnap the aunt and demand money. They recognize Dajin and threaten her too. Yoon-sung, who's seen the world, steps forward to protect Dajin. Even alone, Yoon-sung has a strong presence and seems to have the upper hand. But he gets ambushed and falls unconscious. Luckily, the hospital checks show no serious injuries. Dajin feels guilty because Yoon-sung got hurt because of her. She's filled with regret. Her aunt dreamed of becoming a famous singer overnight, but a shady record company tricked her into paying for an album that never happened. They even scammed her out of the house her father left her. Now Dajin is stuck with the debt. No matter how hard she tries, life keeps getting worse. To make up for his past and help Dajin, Yoon-sung drags a bag of cash, 50 pounds, to the gangsters. He pays off all of Dajin's aunt's debts. He says, "Count it carefully, fast and accurate." Later, in first class, an educated man stares creepily at a flight attendant. He gets handsy with her. She silently resists, but he doesn't stop. He gets worse. At the last moment, Chief Attendant Jaewon steps in. This makes the man furious and vengeful. Little does Jaewon know, she's now his next target. When Jaewon goes to the restroom, the man sneaks in after her. Not wanting to scare passengers, Jaewon stays calm. She tries to talk him into letting her go, promising not to report him. But he ignores her and gets even more aggressive. At the critical moment, Yoon-sung stops the man. He grabs the creep by the collar, ready to punch this sleazy guy. But Dajin quickly pulls Yoon-sung back. No matter how much this guy deserves it, hitting him would make things worse. It could ruin Yoon-sung's career. Still, Yoon-sung throws the man to the floor. Scaring passengers is the last thing a flight crew should do. The man yells, "Hey, I'm in business class. Do you know how expensive that is?" Yoon-sung replies, "Your ticket doesn't include the flight attendants." Yoon-sung tells the crew to prepare for landing. They'll hand the man over to airport security. The man threatens them, saying they'll regret this. Yoon-sung apologizes to all passengers for the disturbance. The creep returns to his seat. The shameless man still demands the flight attendant serve him. The flight attendant is too scared to react. She chooses to ignore him. But Dajin, who believes in justice, steps forward and fastens his seatbelt for him. She straps him tightly into his seat. No one expects this isn't the end of it. Jaewon tries to calm down and fixes her button. Dajin sees Yoon-sung lose his temper for the first time. This isn't like his usual self, but Dajin doesn't know he acted this way to protect his ex-girlfriend. That night, Jaewon finally lets out her bottled-up emotions in the car. Yoon-sung watches the woman who left him 7 years ago. They sit together in silence. Jaewon wants to get back together, but Yoon-sung hesitates, because Dajin already has a place in his heart. The next day, the company receives a complaint. The airline's vice president, Yoon-sung's adoptive father, uses this as an excuse to fire him. He blames Jaewon for poor service. Jaewon fires back. Is tolerating harassment good service? She believes she did nothing wrong, but this angers the vice president. He yells, "Have you forgotten? Passengers pay your salaries. The captain and crew ganged up to bully a passenger." Yoon-sung says, "As captain, I'll take full responsibility." He knows the vice president's plan. He offers to face all consequences. But the vice president isn't done yet. He makes an even worse demand. For the company's reputation, they must apologize to the first-class passenger. The man sneers, "Get on your knees." To keep her job, Jaewon kneels. Even though she's the victim, she has to apologize to the criminal. Yoon-sung can't take it, and pulls Jaewon away. The passenger threatens the company for an apology. Dajin watches the arrogant man. Out of anger, she kicks him between the legs. With that kick, Dajin might lose her job. The situation gets worse. The vice president warns Dajin of punishment, but the crew admires her bravery. The vice president plans to fire all three, but he doesn't know an investigator on that flight. He witnessed the whole incident. He thinks this brave and united team acted quickly to stop the crime and protect the passengers. He believes the captain and flight attendants did nothing wrong and even praises them. Meanwhile, the crew greets the male passenger together every day. Under pressure, the passenger slowly backs down, and the situation calms. The punishment for the three is also cancelled. Yoon-sung didn't expect to earn recognition in this way. He wants to leave his troubled past behind and protect Dajin properly. He buys a pair of glasses just like his and secretly puts them in Dajin's locker as a gift. She happens to see it. Her heart flutters, and feelings start to grow. On the plane, Dajin curiously asks Yoon-sung if the matching glasses mean something. Jaewon, who's bringing water, sees this. She feels jealous. She doesn't want her ex-boyfriend to love someone else. After work, Jaewon approaches Yoon-sung and asks to start over. But Yoon-sung's heart already belongs to Dajin. He struggles to find the right words to say no. Suddenly, Jaewon hugs him tightly. Dajin happens to walk by and sees them. Their close embrace makes her imagine the worst. Yoon-sung doesn't know how to explain. The next day, Dajin returns the glasses to Yoon-sung. She tells him with no more illusions, "If it's not mine, I won't even look at it. Don't do things that could be misunderstood." Yoon-sung feels torn. He loves Dajin deeply, but she doesn't know his past mistake caused her mother's death. He loves her but fears hurting her, so he silently cares for her from afar. He secretly covers her with a jacket when she sleeps, worried she'll catch a cold. Jaewon notices Yoon-sung only has eyes for Dajin. To win back her man, Jaewon confronts Dajin. She tells her, "I and Yoon-sung used to date and are getting back together, so Dajin should give up." But Dajin shocks her by saying, "I hate Yoon-sung," and storms off angrily. To crush Dajin's hopes completely, Jaewon purposely walks right past her and boldly enters Yoon-sung's house as Dajin watches. Dajin's heart aches as she stands there, holding the clothes in her hands. She can actually sense Yoon-sung's feelings for her, but she doesn't want to interfere in their relationship. She hesitates. After calming herself, she gathers courage. She plans to return the clothes and ask for the truth. But to her surprise, the door is opened by Jaewon, wearing Yoon-sung's shirt and looking disheveled. Furious, Dajin storms in, ready to confront the cheater. "He has a girlfriend but still flirts with me." But there's no sign of Yoon-sung in the room. Turns out, this was all planned by his ex-girlfriend. She spills wine on the clothes to hint at what's next, but Yoon-sung went to the store to buy her new clothes to avoid suspicion. Unaware of the truth, Dajin leaves the clothes behind and walks away heartbroken. The next day, Yoon-sung finds the coat at home and realizes Dajin came by. Panicked, he tries to explain, but she refuses to listen. Later, on a flight, he gets another chance to talk. But heartbroken Dajin doesn't want to argue. She decides to switch partners. Yoon-sung stays silent, afraid of making things worse. Suddenly, the weather turns bad. They can only wait for landing instructions. But chaos erupts in the cabin. A pregnant woman tries to force open the cabin door. Luckily, a flight attendant stops her in time. The woman panics because her husband is dying in the hospital. She hopes her pregnancy news will keep him alive. Hearing this, Jaewon remembers something from 7 years ago. To avoid past mistakes, she quickly informs the captain. But Dajin suggests prioritizing their landing. Yoon-sung follows protocol, refusing to risk 300 passengers for 2 people. Dajin corrects him. 302 people. Yoon-sung has been haunted by his mentor's death 7 years ago. Her words finally free him from guilt. Without hesitation, he requests an emergency landing. The pregnant woman arrives safely. Her husband survives the crisis. After work, Dajin takes the bus home. A motorcycle cuts in illegally. The driver brakes hard to avoid it. All passengers are thrown forward. Hearing about the accident, Yoon-sung rushes to the hospital. He can no longer hide his feelings for Dajin. He checks every bed, searching for her. He worries she might be hurt, and fears losing her even more. Just as hope fades, he spots Dajin in the elevator, completely unharmed. No more hiding, he pulls her into a tight, emotional hug. Maybe fear of loss makes love feel even more precious. Yoon-sung believes true love can conquer anything. He decides to confess how his mistake 7 years ago led to her mother's death. Lost in a tipsy, romantic haze, their candlelit dinner becomes unforgettable. They wish this happiness could last forever, but reality soon crashes back in. The next day, Yoon-sung reveals the brutal truth. Dae-jin can't accept this absurd twist of fate. A wound that never healed in 7 years is now salted by the one she loves most. Her lover is her mother's killer. Is life playing a cruel joke on her? Later, on a flight, they meet another pregnant passenger, 34 weeks along. As head flight attendant, Jae-won calmly directs the crew, moving the woman to the medical area. This time, luck strikes. A medical professional is on board, but Jae-won freezes, haunted by past failures. Dae-jin snaps her out of it. Jae-won refocuses, organizing emergency care. Things seem under control until a flight attendant drops medical supplies everywhere. She scrambles to gather and deliver them. Jae-won asks, "Were these sterilized?" The attendant stammers, "I think so." To avoid repeating her old mistake, Jae-won re-sterilizes everything. With teamwork, the baby is born safely. The plane lands smoothly. Alone in the cabin, Jae-won finally breaks down crying. 7 years of guilt replay in her mind, memories flashing vividly. Dae-jin's mother's death, how unsterilized scissors gave her sister sepsis, nearly killing her. Jae-won apologizes, expecting no forgiveness. Dae-jin once swore never to forgive, but today, something shifts. Jae-won's 7-year burden lifts at last. She sobs uncontrollably. Meanwhile, abroad, Dae-jin buys a gift for her sister, only for a passerby to knock it to the ground, shattering it. Dae-jin has a bad feeling about this. Yoo-sung finds his sister unconscious. He rushes her to the hospital. Dae-jin hurries to the hospital after landing. Scared of losing her sister, she collapses to the floor. Because of Yoon-sung and Jae-won's mistake, the sister has weak immunity and gets sick easily. She's never even been to an amusement park. Dae-jin can't stand seeing Yoon-sung and kicks him out. Doctors work hard and save the sister's life. The doctor tells Dae-jin, "She barely made it. 1 minute later would have been too late." One crisis ends, but another danger is coming. The plane flies at 30,000 feet. Suddenly, broken ice hits the propeller. One engine fails, and the plane shakes violently. Luggage falls everywhere in the cabin. Panic spreads among 300 passengers. Jae-won tries to calm everyone down. She tells passengers to put away sharp objects to avoid injuries during turbulence. Dae-jin and Yoon-sung work together to keep the plane from crashing. At this critical moment, fate plays a cruel joke. Thick fog reduces visibility to 50 meters. They can't see runway lights to land. The plane must keep circling. With engine trouble, crash risk grows. Fire trucks and ambulances wait at the airport, ready for emergency. Passengers brace for impact, covering their heads, praying for safety. Their lives depend on the air traffic controller, who guides them using only his eyes. Working perfectly together, the three land the plane safely. After this life and death experience, they decide to face their feelings honestly. Dae-jin and Yoon-sung publicly announce their relationship. Dae-jin fulfills her promise to her parents, becoming a real captain, continuing her father's flying dream.